Did you ever take a moment to stop, get off the road, and look at Night City, not from far away like a tourist would, but from below, where you might notice something odd? Night City, from that angle, is a nightmare to live in. Advertisements cover the buildings, the lights are so bright they blind you, the sound of cars never stops, and people keep passing by, indifferent to you. You may have noticed how, in the trailers for Cyberpunk, the game sells you a dream, a power fantasy, while in reality the only thing you feel in Night City is how insignificant you are in that space where you're nothing. Consider how Cyberpunk's anniversary trailer keeps mentioning the idea that in Night City people fight so that one day
you might just make it to the major leagues.
But that's all a lie, and CD Projekt toys with you by making you believe you'll become a legend in Cyberpunk, although, in truth, your dream is about to be crushed by a corporate society that corrupts everything, from your hopes to your ideals, and even your best friend who dies while trying to make it big. The more I play Cyberpunk, the more I realize that Night City is not what it makes you think it is. The city looks enticing at first, as if primed to make you live a memorable life filled with bombastic moments, countless relationships, but also opportunities to climb the social ladder, which is what happens when you start playing the game. You meet Jackie and build a reputation for yourself. You make money and become famous, to the point where you feel confident and accept a high-risk mission. When the power fantasy is at its highest and you feel on top of the world, that same world takes you down. The mission goes poorly, Jackie dies in your arms in the name of lofty ideals that never mattered, leaving behind his mother, his girlfriend, and you. You go back to the man who hired you, and the only welcome you get is a bullet in the head. The real Night City, the real Cyberpunk, is not about standing tall and gazing at a city you mastered. It's about feeling small and seeing your dreams crushed by a corporate world too powerful for you. CD Projekt tricks you into thinking that Night City is a place where fantasies come to life, but the studio's intention is to make you fall as low as your dreams were high. In the words of Pavel Sasko, the game's quest director, Cyberpunk starts and it pretends to be GTA. You're going to become a legend, and the thing is, that's all true until you get shot in the head. In that moment, we reset everything. Consider how the story of Cyberpunk is an allegory of how Night City transforms people. After you get shot and come back to life, thanks to the biochip containing Johnny Silverhand, your identity shatters. In your desire to make it big, you literally lose yourself and become someone else. That someone else being Johnny. The same happens to Jackie, who was a caring, loving person to his mother and partner, until he got blinded by the promise of success and the illusions of the metropolis. On the way to the mission that's gonna kill him, Jackie mentions how he lived so long in the dirt and refuses to go back to it now that he had a taste of luxurious life. For him, becoming a legend is all that matters, and death is only the final flourish. But his death is not a triumph, it's a tragedy. He dies in the back of a car, in a shady alleyway with only a handful of people who remember him. Jackie's death makes something painfully clear. No one forced him to risk everything. No one dragged him into doing the heist. He wanted to do it. Night City didn't tell him that his life would only be worth something if he became a legend, because he didn't need to. Instead, living in a city convinced Jackie that standing still or going back to the life he came from was worse than dying. So why does Night City lure people into thinking that they have to become a legend or die trying? Because the city now exerts power over its subjects differently, just like it does in our current society. For the philosopher Byung-Chul, people in a modern world live in an achievement society, meaning that they're being told that they can be anything they want to be, as long as they're willing to self-improve, optimize themselves, and increase their market value. Han thinks what this produces is a lot of narcissistic and anxious people. It's one of the hidden messages of neo-capitalist society. Anyone can achieve anything they set their mind to, and if they don't, then it's on them for having failed. For the philosopher, people in this type of society have no excuse for not making it to the major leagues. And the same applies to Cyberpunk. Jackie wants to make it big, it's all up to him, as Night City inserts in him the idea that with determination, he can become anything he wants. To better understand this crucial aspect of Cyberpunk, we need to understand that mega corporations in Night City only look for more profit, and that the best way to get there is not by forcing people to work or to embrace a more disciplinarian type of society. The exploitation of others is no longer the most efficient way to produce more. Rather, what produces the most is when people actively choose to exploit themselves on their own volition, because they're driven by a desire to achieve their dreams and become an ideal version of themselves. After all, who doesn't want to push their limits and become who they can truly be? That's precisely where cybernetics come in, as they allow people to enhance themselves and truly reach their potential. But in doing so, corporations get a chance to insert themselves into the body of those who want to become more than they are. Cybernetics are the perfect allegory to show where our current society is headed, that is, headed toward a relentless search for producing faster and optimizing people's productivity. In Night City, cybernetics and cyberspace both offer an answer to human limitations. People can now move faster, think faster, and achieve more. Everything in that metropolis entices people to literally transform their mind and their body so that they can reach their quote-unquote full potential. Consider David Martinez from Edge Runners for a moment. No one forces him to optimize himself by adding more and more cybernetics. He does so on his own because he internalizes a demand to be more than he is, and is willing to do anything to become someone. Jackie and V are similar in that they do everything to make it big, and their desire Night City nurtures so well ends up costing their lives. David, Jackie, and V all share something in common. They come from a low social class, a background that often falls victim to Night City and its promise of becoming more than the nothingness people feel they are. What I'm saying is not meant to be harsh. This is meant to better understand how Night City uses us more than we use it. There's nothing wrong with people who want to achieve great things. What I'm explaining is that this desire takes place in a societal context that is crucial to reflect on. The citizens of Night City are subject to burnout, isolation, depression, etc., in large part because for Han, mental illness is a result of inadequacy when you're not reaching unrealistic performance ideals. And this is why Jackie and the bartender of the afterlife keep saying that it's better to die in the blaze of glory than live a meaningless life. We ought to ponder how extreme this perspective is. For them, if people don't make it big, life is not worth living. But we have to ask, who says what's meaningful or meaningless in our lives? You guessed it, Night City is behind this, its advertisements, its corporations, and its idealization of relentless productivity. If someone is incapable of reaching their full potential because the bar has been put too high, then instead of accepting failure, people like Jackie would rather not continue living. And right there, we understand how Night City, despite supposedly giving the freedom for anyone to be anything they wish to, doesn't care at all about its own citizens. The incentive it gives people is nothing more than a ploy to make them produce more, and to do so on their own volition. In an achievement society, you're being told to be your authentic self, since authenticity is a manifestation of your freedom. Speaking about authenticity, think about Joshua, who we meet in the context of one of the most incredible side quests in the game. Joshua was sentenced to death row because he's a murderer, but he decided to die by crucifixion instead, his death being recorded by a brain-dance studio. When doing the quest, we can see that he truly believes his sacrifice will be for the greater good, but we ought to notice how he also tries to transcend himself, to achieve something more useful for others, something society would be thankful for. In Night City, his death will be used for corporate gain without anyone having told him what to do. His crucifixion is his choice, and for Rachel, the braindance producer, that makes him authentic, and as such, the best braindance actor there can be. But Joshua's authenticity, while seemingly a good thing, turns out to be a self-absorbed nightmare, in that Joshua is narcissistic despite his good intentions. He doesn't even realize that by visiting the mother of a man he murdered, in the hope of being forgiven for his crime, he doesn't respect her pain and should have left her alone. His desire to repent can also be interpreted as a selfish desire to die free of guilt. As such, his selfishness turns him into a commodity for corporations trying to profit from him. Joshua, in his path toward redemption, obsesses over becoming more valuable for society after having done so many wrong things in his life, and his choice to become more valuable ends up serving the corporate society he lives in, when he accepts his death to be recorded and shared with consumers. Achievement society works exactly like this. It lures its subjects into doing extreme things without forcing them, because everybody is attracted to the idea of doing more than they are, to surpass themselves and become someone who mattered. Joshua's story is not an exception, but a symptom of a broader system, one that Night City embodies at every level. Consider how it preys on those who live inside it, but also outside of it. Nomad V has no other choice but to go to the city to find work, make a living and start building a reputation. In this case, V is the one going to Night City, being attracted to it like a moth to a flame. The city and its tantalizing promise of a better life keeps luring people so as to exploit them without forcing anyone. Just like our current megacities, people from all over the world have no choice but to come and offer their labor. Even if the pay is low and work conditions are bad, they do so willingly. Night City may appear filled with opportunities, but in truth, it hides a deceptive form of exploitation. The metropolis functions as a colony, a self-sustaining system designed to attract labor, extract value, and discard those who can no longer keep up. Rather than invading new lands, corporations in a city simply wait, as people arrive on their own, drawn by promises of opportunity and freedom, only to find themselves absorbed into an economy that feeds entirely on their time, bodies, and ambition. And again, Night City doesn't chain anyone to its streets, rather, it convinces them that arriving there is already a victory. Simply surviving in a city is treated as proof of merit. In that sense, the city doesn't need to oppress openly, because its inhabitants police themselves, constantly working harder and risking more in the hope of someday making it big. The promise is never fulfilled, but it remains just close enough to keep people moving forward, mistaking endurance for progress and exploitation for opportunity. One of the most fascinating aspects of Cyberpunk is that it gives us a glimpse of what the future may look like for achievement societies. The most interesting glimpse of our future is none other than Soul Killer, a program that can extract the soul of anyone, store it, and insert it into another person's body. This is what happens to V when the engram of Johnny Silverhand is inserted into their body, so both of them share the same body throughout the game. More importantly, after Soul Killer was created, Sabuha Arasaka launched the Secure Your Soul program, offering the chance for the wealthy and influential, such as politicians, business people, celebrities, etc., to preserve their minds indefinitely by inserting them into new bodies. At first glance, this looks like immortality granted to those who've earned it, but the horror lies in what happens to the rest. The bodies of those who fail to achieve enough, who cannot secure their souls, are no longer recognized as people, and instead become vessels for the ambitions of the successful. Failure does not simply exclude you from the system, it turns you into a container, a resource to be harvested. The Secure Your Soul program makes explicit what Night City has always implied. Life is valued not for itself, but for what it can contribute to society. To survive is not enough. Failure is used, quite literally, for someone else's success. This explains why Johnny says,
"Corps have already taken the world for their own. Now they're coming for us."
And it wouldn't be surprising to see that, although the soul's extraction and insertion process is unethical, people may react to it, saying, "These people worked long and hard. They're very important, and it's no big deal that they have access to the bodies of those who are mediocre, who didn't work nearly as much and failed in life." In such a context, the people who have elevated themselves to a higher societal status will continue to be rewarded to the point of taking over the lives of those who were not as ambitious. I mentioned Sabuha Asaka earlier, and it's a great example because his intention is to preserve his soul and reinsert it into his son's body. The latter was not as ambitious as his father, and in fact wanted to bring the Arasaka Empire down. Given how, in one of the game's endings, his body is being used as a receptacle for his father's engram, this is a clear example of where Night City is headed. It may be perceived as natural selection, but in fact, it's more than that. Sabuho is not merely avoiding death, he's enacting the ultimate vision of achievement society, where only the overachievers survive, and everyone else exists as receptacles for their immortality. So, what's the solution then? If Night City doesn't care about you, what should you do? We can find an answer in the anniversary trailer I mentioned earlier. While the trailer sells you Night City as a place filled with opportunities, it also reunites characters and focuses on that touching reunion. If the trailer hits hard, it's because we see characters we loved, characters we grew attached to, and that V considers close friends, family members, and more. If V becomes a legend, it's not through Night City, but through the eyes of others who care. Jackie, Evelyn, Johnny, Judy, Panam, and everybody else will never fade away because they matter to you and you to them. Building relationships in a city that pushes people to only think about themselves is the best way to retain humanity and to truly make it to the big leagues. Because, let's be real, you don't remember Jackie as a name on a drink or for his exploits during the heist mission. You remember him for his generosity, his smile, his humor, and the true first friend who extended a hand to you in Night City. That's who Jackie is, and that's how he's remembered. If you ever felt anything watching the end of the anniversary trailer, that's why. Jackie mattered to you because you mattered to him, and that is worth more than any league you may want to be a part of. Once again, Misty proves to be wise even at times when life gets as dark as can be. In the Phantom Liberty ending, after not seeing her for 2 years and after V lost their cyber transplants, they ask her,
Misty, can you just tell me what to do? Balanced or not, you always have something smart to say.
I can tell you how I bounced out of the last dark pit I was in.
Can you?
Turned out that an old friend of mine is still alive.
What she says might sound cheesy at first, but that's the truth. V asks a question out of desperation because they no longer have implants, which impedes them from reaching their true potential, now being nothing more than another face in a crowd. But for Misty, the joy of simply reuniting with someone you care about is enough. She's happy to see you not because she can use you to get something she wants. Rather, she's happy to see you because there's nothing at stake in doing so, just the pleasure of being next to you and sharing some time together. That type of friendship opposes the productivist mindset achievement society promotes, where the other person is either a tool to use or a competitor to bring down. Now, understanding this, we can see why the anniversary trailer highlights the relationships people have in Night City, instead of the city itself. Moreover, Misty is far from being the only one to show us a way out. The Aldecaldos represent a family that adopts you, with its members sacrificing themselves because you're now one of them. The bond they share with you goes beyond their own interest or desire to expand their influence. They're willing to die for you because you're part of them. They no longer think in an individualistic way, rather, they think and act as a community for the benefit of the nomad family. By default, they stand in stark contrast to the obsession of our individualism in Night City. That healthier collective mindset contrasts with the path of least resistance ending. In it, V decides to let go and end his life on his own. The reason?
We try anything else, people will die.
People die. It's the way of things.
Am I worth their sacrifice? Are you?
Well, yeah, V's worth people's sacrifice, and vice versa, people are worth V's sacrifice. V's mindset here comes from the city's standpoint, which emphasizes and isolates the individual to the detriment of the community. Thinking that you're not worthy of people's sacrifice is selfish, as people are willing to do everything they can to help protect the ones they care about. That's the nature of strong relationships, of love, of family. V, in that ending, displays Night City's hidden exploitation of people, and it explains why the ending closes on a shot of the city, which now claims that lonely life as its own. All that remains then is a city standing still at work, indifferent to what just happened. Night City's true identity and the damage it inflicts on those who live within it can be traced back to the rise of modern industrial life about 2 centuries ago, when people from rural areas were forced to leave their homes and work in expanding cities. This was a moment when cities became the place to be, drawing in people's hopes and dreams of a better life, away from small towns and villages and toward the promise of success. That precise feeling has long been called disenchantment. Disenchantment is everywhere we look in Night City, a place that promises more than it delivers, a city of dreams that produces nightmares. Disenchantment is a moment when you see that the dreams sold to you, the fantasies of success and glory, are not harmless aspirations. They're imposed by a system that will crush anyone who fails to meet its impossible standards. Night City, if anything, is a place for lost souls. Souls like V, like Jackie, like Evelyn and Judy, and so many others who cross your path, all bound together by the same disenchantment. The French author Balzac, thinking about all those people who felt swallowed by the modern city, once said, "I think of those who must find something within themselves after disenchantment." I too, when I look around and above me in Night City, think about those souls forced to live in a society that excludes anyone who fails to perform, produce, or succeed. And while thinking about this, I can't help but reminisce over the Star ending, where V leaves Night City behind and drives into the Badlands. A defeat, perhaps, but a beautiful one. That ending resonates the most with me because V refuses to play the Night City game any longer. Instead, V chooses a life with someone who cares, and in doing so, redefines what victory even means. And it's not loud. It's not claimed from the rooftops of Night City. It's quiet, fragile, but it's real. Maybe then, it's the only victory still possible in a world that is losing everything, except for a few lost souls driving through an empty desert, not in pursuit of greatness, but in choosing, finally, to get lost. Thank you so much for exploring Night City with me. If you enjoyed this, please consider subscribing, commenting, and liking the video. I look forward to seeing you in the next one.